Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Vacuum Exposition. I, of course, am Carl, the host with the most, and we are back for another spooky season episode of Vacuum Exposition. Now, I say it's spooky season not because anything that I am doing is in any way necessarily pertaining to Halloween per se, but I decided to do a special series this month for the month of October. I know that I unfortunately missed September, but we moved that to December, but I did want to get a series out for you guys now, to take the place of that for the month of October. So I have decided to do a month of coffee can Hoover machines. If you don't know what that is, or maybe you are a new collector and you're trying to figure out some different things to collect as you kind of get into the more vintage aspects of the vacuum world. The coffee can machine was essentially something that Hoover came out with in the early teens and 20s and continued all the way into the mid 30s. And the reason why they're called a coffee can essentially is because the way that it was set up with the motor, and you'll see it when we take a look at this one, the motor top essentially looks kind of like an old coffee can. That was just kind of plopped right on top of the base there. So, anyways, we will get into that in a minute. That's what we're doing for the rest of the month of October. So, without further ado, let's get into it and take a look at another really cool one. All right, everybody, we got another fantastic coffee can Hoover to take a look at today. Now, this is another one that came out of the J. Divine collection that I brought back from Kansas. So this was one of his. He absolutely loved his pre-war machines, which this would be, because they were just a time period of history that aligned very well with who he associated with, as well as, you know, he lived in a house that was very, very old from turn of the century. So to see one of these machines in a house like his brought him a lot of joy. So this was one he'd had for a very long time, and I'm sure he would be absolutely thrilled to, have us do a video on it. So, but what we're looking at today is a 1935 Hoover Model 475, and this machine would have essentially replaced or come out at a time that would have replaced something like the Model 450 that we took a look at a couple weeks back. Now, this machine featured a lot of new things for Hoover. Now, it would have also been offered kind of around the same time as that Model 300, but the big thing about this one, of course, is the headlight. Now, this machine would have came from the factory with a headlight molded into the coffee can on top of the motor. And as you can see, you just have your very distinct headlight here that even has a little rubber bumper around it to guard against things like, the occasional sofa bottom or chair or coffee table or what have you. So that kept the headlight very protected. It also continued a motif that Hoover had taken as their own starting way back in the early 30s. And that was the black and orange motif. And I figured, you know, a whole reason why I wanted to do the coffee can specials because, well, those colors are the Halloween colors. So obviously that kind of pertains to that. So as you can kind of see, we do have, you know, orange and black in the label up front. The headlight even has some orange pinstriping around it. And of course, the original bag there is orange and kind of a dark gray. So very, very interesting. They continued the motif through the whole thing. Another fun fact about this machine is the way that Hoover had decided to keep their bags on instead of a spring. Now, on the past couple machines that we've taken a look at, they've just had a conventional, you know, vacuum bag spring. This has something a little bit different. Now, the bag spring for this is actually way down at the bottom of the handle. And there's actually, right here is where it holds on the bag. Now, what this is, essentially, is just a piece of fabric that comes all the way up, and there's spring tension up to it, and essentially that holds the bag there. Now, don't ask me why they decided that was a better idea, because as soon as this would break, you would inevitably take it into your vacuum shop. They would put a spring on the bag, and then drill a hole and put a little hook there, and you'd have basically what all vacuums would have later. So unfortunately, that was something that did fall apart over time. This one has remained intact. I do have several machines that do still have this setup on it, but it is pretty rare to find nowadays. Now, the history of the 475 actually hails from another model that I actually have in my collection that I can't wait to bring to you guys one of the next videos, but it comes from essentially the line of the 825. Now, this series would have taken the place of the Sentinel series towards the early 30s, so that swooping Henry Dreyfuss designed headlight would be replaced by this new headlight style. On the 825, it even had a light up Hoover logo that would essentially, when you turn it on, the headlight would light up a little window. It's like Hoover in red. So that was actually really, really cool. But the 475 would essentially been the lower model, or the little brother unit to that. It would have had a little bit less options. The model 825 would have had kind of this aroma emanator that came from the bottom that would actually expel, you know, sweet smelling herbs and whatnot through the bag, so your house smelled great when you vacuumed. This machine was still kind of the older style and didn't have that, but it still carried a lot of the options. You know, having the painted coffee can hood was actually a lower option, whereas the polished aluminum style one was actually more deluxe, which is kind of odd to me because essentially, you know, you take a lot more time to paint things than you would to polish something up, but, you know, to each their own. But these machines were really, really cool. And they marked a new period of Hoover design. Now, this machine, even though it was the younger brother of the 825, they decided to sell this particular series of machines a little bit different. So when I say that, I mean the 825 did have its own ad, but kind of like with the model 450, the 800 that we mentioned there, which is kind of the older brother, that one was the one that got the ad. You know, they put the top of the line in the ad so that that's what people would want, and if they couldn't afford it, they would go down to the next one. This one, however, even got its own ad, and it made people want the machine. You know, it had people talking to each other, you know, like, oh, they really, really want that one, and I'll show that ad right here, actually. Now, this machine was kind of the beginning, or at the beginning, of that special type time frame when the Hoover company would take older machines and rebadge them, kind of like what I was talking about in the last video. However, this one still retains all of its original parts, and that's very important because these are only original once, and if anything gets changed, well, you know, that definitely does affect the originality, obviously. But this one still has its original nameplate on the front, as well as all the original pieces on the base, including the original bumper. It also has the original cord and plug. As you can see, bigger cord and plug. And now this is important because it does have a plug that can be essentially taken off in case you needed to replace the cord, but no molded plugs like we saw on the 300. And then, of course, it has the original bag and bag tensioner on it. So very, very important, which is, again, another reason why Jay was very proud of it. So, but that's about all I have on this one. So let's get on to the run demo and see how the old 475 does on the floor. All right, everybody, so we have the old 475 all plugged in and ready to go. I'm really, really excited about this one because running these old things is just absolutely so fun because they work exactly like they did back then. And they do a really good job on carpeting, even carpeting that's as new as, you know, 1990s when this was put in. So, but anyways, let's get to it. Well, everybody, the old 475 still did a bang-up job here on the floor and really does a good job with the carpeting. So I'm very, very pleased with how this thing performed. So, but hope you guys all enjoyed our little run demo for today. Well, everybody, we've come to the end of another one here today in our, side filming location. I know it's a little bit different than what you're normally used to seeing with my videos, but, it still provides a great place for us to take a look at these machines and puts it right in front of the fireplace, which this one absolutely fits in front of. So this was another really, really fun one, and I'm super, super happy to have gotten this one out and showed it off with you guys and was able to share a little bit of the history of this machine. Now, I know that the history of these old coffee can machines does get a little bit trivial at times, just because they all kind of melded together at a certain time, and certain machines were just unceremoniously replaced with others. But these machines are just so cool. They're so fun to have. They're so fun to get out and operate. And if you are a new collector, definitely look into finding one of these machines. And hey, if you really, really want one, I'm going to have a few for sale here that are just duplicates that I really just don't have the space for anymore. So I got to get rid of a few of them. But if you are interested, of course, feel free to let me know down in the comment section, or look me up on Facebook. I am Constellation Carl with 2 Ks, just like I am here. But anyways, this machine was really, really fun, and I definitely was happy to get this out and kind of show it, and be able to share this with you in the same way that Jay would have loved to. So definitely a fun one, but we will take a look at more fun ones as the month moves on. So, but I hope you guys all enjoyed our little video today. And of course, I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend and another great week. We will catch you again next week with another coffee can machine, and we'll go from there. So have a great rest of your day, y'all.